So again, thank you everyone for participating in today's training on the SHL platform. My name again is Kimberly. I'm with Talivation. Just have some navigation points before I get into the actual use of the tool. When you, what you should be seeing now is the dashboard. That's what you'll see as soon as you log into the system. From here, you get some high-level statistics about the tool. So I can easily see, I can pick a specific date range. I can see the number of assessments that I have scheduled, completed, candidates that have finished strongly, as well as tests that are in progress, expired, or pending. Up here on the upper right side, I also have my profile, so I can update my contact information, my password, I can log out. The account summary will show you your overall credits. This will not be applicable per se for the staffing companies, but they will have the counter available for you, which is nice because if you go to the actual summary, you can see the number of credits that you have blocked, which means you have scheduled with candidates but aren't completed yet, and then the number of credits that are actually consumed. And you can easily tell who on your team is using the assessments, what assessments they're using, the date they've got them scheduled, and you can also export that information. Over here, the Aspiring Minds logo takes you back to the main dashboard. And then over on the left side, I have the navigation menus for the assessment portion, which allows you to create the new assessment, as well as view and add candidates to existing assessments. And then depending upon your roles and permissions, you would have access to the user management, add additional users to your account as well. So I'm going to go through just some, again, more information about the dashboard. As I mentioned, you can easily see at a glance the candidates that you've actually scheduled. If I scroll a little bit further, I also have a shortcut key to create new assessments by looking for a particular topic or title. I can see the overall statistical completion rate for my candidates. If I scroll a little further, I can see candidate statistical information on my specific assessments. And then anything that I've used most recently, I have the option to go ahead and schedule more candidates for these most recent assessments that I've created. I also have another short key down here at the bottom to create an assessment that way as well. So multiple ways of getting to that information. I'm going to go back up here to the top and click over to my assessment portion. I'd like to start off with the My Assessments piece. These are all of the assessments that I currently have set up so that I can administer to my candidates. I can do a simple search using this bar here at the top by the assessment title, or I can change the default and look for an actual candidate. From here as well, when I hover over a particular assessment, it's going to show me whatever modules or tests that are included as part of that assessment, who created it, the date, and the number of credits for that particular assessment. So again, you can see that this one has 3 modules for this data scientist position, whereas the Linux administration also has 3. I scroll down further. This one is just the occupation personality, one module. Over on the right, I can see the number of candidates that have been scheduled, those that have completed the assessment, those that have finished strongly, and those that were average on their scoring. I will also say that these 4 buttons here work as a mini filter. So someone who's got some results here. Next page. So if I look for this one that just had typing and data entry, I can see everyone that's been scheduled, or I can do a mini filter and just see the 5 that have completed the test, or I can use this filter and just see the 3 that finished strongly. I can continue looking at my other icons. I have the option to go ahead and just schedule more candidates for that particular assessment. I can look at all of my candidate details. And then I have the option to either edit my assessment. I can delete the assessment. I also have the capability of copying the assessment. If I am the one who created the assessment, I can change who on my team has visibility to that test. And again, it's a toggle on off. I just pick the appropriate team members that need to have visibility. And make those changes so they would have access to my assessment created. If I want to look for a specific results for this particular testing, and click on the icon. So I can see, here's Charlie Brown. His overall scoring was 99 on the typing and 95 on the data entry. I wanted to see the actual report for that. I would need to click on the assessment report. That'll pull up the PDF. It does open as another window. So once that, okay, I was moving really slowly for loading. So again, I can see the overall detail of particular tests, keystrokes, accuracy, words per minute, accuracy again. And then I can see the actual detail report about what was asked and what was actually input on each particular question. Fairly simple for this one since it's just data entry and typing, but it should be similar to what you see on the IBM version of the PDF. I can download the PDF here. It'll show up at the bottom of my screen. So again, if I want just the PDF version, there's the same information. If I'm done with this, I can just close it out. Go look at the additional candidates. You will note that the name and email does not populate until the candidate has actually clicked on their link for that particular test. However, if you include the schedule information on your view, it'll show you the particular candidate. And if they've expired or you need to change anything, you can always hit the reschedule button. To add the schedule information for your view, you just click the settings and change which of the icons and columns are added. I'm going to go back to my main assessments. I will also say you can do an advanced search for candidates that have been on more than one assessment. So by doing so, I just go to view all candidates. I can look for a particular name. I can also do an advanced search from here. So I can pick, again, depending on my role in Access, I can search by a particular recruiter. I can pick just a specific assessment. I can pick the candidate status of whether or not they've completed the test. Is it pending, expired? I can pick the scheduled date range as well as the attempted range. to look for my specific candidate. I can also export this information so that I have all of my candidate information. So we've had a couple of customers ask about changing candidate data. So let's say hypothetically you've made a typo on someone's name. The system will not allow you to change that after the test is completed. But if you do need to make a change, misspelling of the name, misspelling of the email, you can just hit the reschedule button. And it will re-pull up the candidate details. So you can make those edits there if needed. Great. Do a quick check to see no questions so far. Great. All right. So I want to show just a different report, just so you can see what some of the other reports look like. Here we have an Excel test. So again, we have the overall score, the statistical topic level scores, and then the detailed response. So again, this should be very similar to what you're used to seeing from the IBM Assess accounts. The level statistical answers, and then the topic statistics. Here's just a slightly different one. This was the math and reasoning test. And again, similar format to what you're used to. For anyone doing any of the behavioral, it'll be a slightly different format, but again, same general process. And here we have the occupation personality inventory. Again, it's just a behavioral. It's a little bit more detailed of the information. If we give you what the expectations and improvements. And then down towards the back will be the actual follow-up questions. This one's a really long one. Because of the actual module is a behavioral, so it does include interview questions in more detail than just a straight right, correct, right, wrong response that you would see on a skill test. So with that, I'm going to come over here to the option to create assessment. This allows me to, again, set up a new test to administer to any candidates. I can do a keyword search by either the title of the test that I'm looking for. Perhaps that's Excel, and I have to spell correctly. Or maybe it is an actual position. In which case, if I'm looking for a position, it's going to give me some suggested modules for that particular position or profile. I can add additional tests. It defaults to custom, but again, you can change that to all. And then do a keyword search for any additional modules that you want to include for this particular position. So the question in the chat, can the recruiter see the questions and the assessment before actually administering it? So we are working with SHL on that. At the moment, there's not a trial test feature set up on the system. Great question. Thank you. So again, if I want to go typing, I can add the particular module. If I hover over it, depending on, again, on, you'll see this more for the behavioral side, but you can get a little information about the test. I can change the order in which they are presented to the candidate. Oops. And I just keep, another great question. Is the content and the module titles the same as what you had on the Assess platform? The short answer is everything that you will have access to initially on your SHL account will be the same thing that you had access to on the IBM Assess account. So it will be the same content. And there's another question about, is there a master list available? The short answer is yes, we're working on that. SHL is still in the process of doing some of the marketing and rebranding. We do have just a pretty Excel file, but it has all of the same titles for the most part. There are some minor exceptions, like the hard copy typing tests was not ported over. Most everyone was using the online version, so SHL did not upload the, where you had to actually print off the test, things like that. But otherwise, all of the content is the same. Oh, another great question. Is there a way for the test scores and reports to automatically be sent to the candidate once completed? Great question. There is not an automatic way at the moment, but I'll show you how you can actually add that so that the candidates can get that. It is a little bit of a manual process at the moment. So again, I add any additional tests or modules that I want to be included. Once I've got whatever it is I want to have for this particular position, I'm good to go. I can also change the name of the assessment. So again, I can leave it as administrative analysis analyst, or I can go ahead and change it to the job rec or the customer that we are doing the hiring on behalf of, whatever most sense to you in your naming convention. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this one as administrative analyst. From there, I can hit save and next. We then have the proctoring features. These are currently turned on, but they will be an added feature. So if you do want that permanently on your account, let us know. We can discuss pricing. You have the option to do the browser lock, which basically means if the candidate tries to open up another window or another tab, they'll actually get a warning notice, and after, I think it's 2 attempts, they'll actually be kicked out of the test because they're considered off focus and not doing the actual test. You can also have the system set up so that they, through the webcam on the candidate's computer, take snapshots to ensure that the person taking the test is the person who's supposed to be taking the test. And then the image capture basically means that they hold their ID close to their face and it takes a snapshot at the very beginning, again, as another way to validate that the person is the correct person taking the test. You can turn these off individually, or you can turn them off at the master level. From there, I have my, again, just a summary of my assessment details. And then I can check the mode of delivery. By default, desktop will almost always be turned on. And depending on the actual tests or modules you've included, you may or may not have access to have the candidate take this remotely via mobile. For this particular one, since I've got a simulation with the Microsoft Office as well as a typing, which requires a keyboard, it will not allow the candidate to take this on a phone or a mobile device. Next, I have the option to edit the information I get from my candidate. Again, I can toggle this on and off of whether I go with the default or if I want to customize. So if you do need additional bio data or demographics, you can do that here. Some of the default options include gender, age, education, technical skills. I can add custom fields as well. I'm just going to stick with the basics. Save and next. Another great question. So in regarding to the proctoring features, if you turn on the candidate snapshot feature and there is not a webcam available, they will get an error. So that is one of the things that we recommend. If there is a concern over the device that the candidate is using, we would probably recommend that you turn that feature off. So that way your candidates can actually still go ahead and take the test. Great question. So the next feature, again, you can turn this on and off at the parent level. It's called the shortlist criteria. It does not change the scoring of any of the assessments. It primarily just changes how your candidate results are ranked. So let's say hypothetically for this analyst, the most important thing for myself or the customer that I'm doing this interviewing for was the analytical skills. And I wanted to rank my candidates and say that the best candidates would be 75 to 100. Instead of the defaults. So again, that will now be what's considered best. We do recommend that if you change the default values and use this tool, and you skew it too far in one direction or the other, it can have some adverse impact and affect the reliability of your assessments. So we do recommend using this with caution if you wish to go ahead and use it. But it is a nice feature for helping rank your result. I'm going to go ahead and just turn it off for now. And then I have the option of scheduling now or scheduling later. I'm going to go ahead and click on the schedule now. From here on the scheduling, the Aspire Minds platform allows you to specify a specific date range. It is not a rolling date. But the nice feature is that it does allow you to change your location and time zone. So if you are a company with a national or global presence, you can actually make that changes. So, Australia. Canada. Can't spell? Canada. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the United States. Put it to my specific time zone. But again, that's a nice feature. We've actually worked with customers that have offices in Australia, for example, and that was always an issue on the timing because they always had to allocate additional time because of the time zone difference. So I can pick out my date range. I can go out as far as I like. I can also set the start date so that it is not immediate. So instead of having it start today, I could actually say that it starts next Monday. So that hopefully answers your question, Roger, about the scheduling the start and times. You have 3 methods for uploading candidate information. You can do a bulk upload. That should be very similar to what you have in Assess. The Aspire Minds platform does have 2 types of data it can retain. That is the CVS as well as the Excel file. They do have a sample of that. So if you open that, you can do a copy paste and then upload that file. If I click on the next tab, I can add candidates individually, one at a time. And as I add one candidate, if I have a second one at the same time, I can just go ahead and add them and continue adding third and fourth as appropriate. Lastly, I have a common link, which is similar to the self-registration that's available on Assess. And you can set up the username. I normally recommend calling it the name of the assessment or the rec number. Password, make it something easy. Again, you can have as many candidates as you want, 5, 10, 500, 5,000, whatever. You can send the details to yourself so that you can forward them over to the candidates as they need to be signed up for the assessments. You can send it to a teammate. Again, whatever's most appropriate. I also have the option to set up an alert when the test is complete. This field is open-ended. It doesn't default to a specific email address. So if I was sending it to myself, I would just type in my name. There's the other questions about from Susan about setting up the test scores. So again, if you wanted your candidate to have the summary of the results, then I could add that person's email here, you know, Snoopy. Oops, that was supposed to be Snoopy, not Snoop. That, hypothetically, if that was the email address. I can also edit the email for the candidates. I put a space in there. No space. I can copy myself when I send out the email to the candidate, or I can do a blind copy, or I can add a teammate. You can also customize the alert. So this one has been changed. So it's actually got please contact me, and it has my contact information. It has my company logo. And then if I was to save this, again, this would be the particular form versus the default. So the question in the chat, can you export a candidate file field to create the form? So yes, that would be under the bulk upload. So again, if I click on the generic form here and open that up. And of course, it's opening on my other monitor. So give me just a second for it to load so I can pull it over. You know, here's the default fields. You delete this top section with the directions. And then just update this bottom section. If you leave the password field blank, it will auto-populate from the system when it sends out that information. And again, if you have this basic information someplace else, copy paste, and then do your upload. Great questions. So once I've got all of that, I can hit my schedule and download, and the test would be sent out to the candidates. So I'm going to show you real fast what that looks like. If I go with the generic email, it'll look something like this. So it'll have the URL for them to log into, their username, the password that's assigned by the system, the name of the assessment, how long they had to take the test, and then any specific directions for those specific test modules that have been included. Once they've completed the test, they'll get an email acknowledgement like this. Again, very straightforward. Thank you for taking the test. We've got your results. If you signed up to receive a copy of the results, They'll look something like this. And again, it's just a high-level summary. If I wanted to look at the actual PDF for the details, currently at the moment, you would need to log back into the system to pull up that PDF. If you sent the common link to yourself, it would look something like this. So this is one I set up as a retail sales position. So I could send this out to all of my candidates as they apply for the job. The username and login would be, again, generic. I can send that out to over 500 people. So let's go pull that up so you can see kind of what that looks like from the test taker's perspective. This would be the login for them. So I enter the password that was set up. If they had previously signed up for an assessment, they would be able to resume any tests that they'd already started, if it's still within that time frame. They also have the option of starting a new test. And if I click on the new test, it's going to ask them to register. So again, and I'm going to go with sticking with Charlie Brown, so Pickton. I can add mobile number, it's optional. I can select a security question. So, Snoopy. Accept the terms. Continue. I'll see the 3 tests that have been included for this particular position. I will note that at the moment, once someone signs in to their test to start, even though this test period, if we look at the email, is open until July 26th, once they've clicked in and signed in, currently they have a 72-hour time period to finish those 3 tests once they've started. So again, just very clear, if it is a group of tests that you've bundled under one assessment, once they start, they have 72 hours to finish those assessments that are grouped together. If you've sent it out individually, they have the full duration of whatever the time frame is to complete those tests. So if I'm ready to move forward with taking the Excel test, again, I hit start. It's going to give me the directions specific to this test. And if I hit next, it's going to take me into the actual Excel simulation. Once I completed this, it would take me to the second test. And then once that was done, it would take me to the final test. You can also use the common link if you're doing testing on-site. They don't currently have an exact feature like the kiosk, but the common link will work in a similar format. So that would be our recommendation at this time. Additionally, if there's interest on using the template and making changes to the template, even though the template pops up here, you cannot make changes from this portion of it. The template changes are made here under Custom Template. If I pull that up, I can select which type of template I'm changing. Most of the time, it's going to be your scheduling for your candidate. Create new. Give it a name, either specific to you or to your company, as you prefer. And again, you can make whatever edits here, upload your logo, put in phone numbers, so on and so forth, whatever's applicable. You also have the option to changing the text notifications. And again, those will pop up depending on whether or not what assessment modules you've chosen. Okay, I'm going to see if there's any other questions before I move on to the next portion. Great, okay. So the next is going to be the user management. Again, depending on your specific roles and permissions, you should be able to see a list of your users that are assigned to your account. And you would have the option to do an edit or delete. To add a new user, you just click the Add New User button, again, assuming that you have that permission. Type in the person's name. The username normally will default to the exact same thing as the email ID, but if you prefer to use first initial last name, you can definitely override whatever defaults here for the username. Put in your phone number. That's the minimum information for your new user. If I hit Save and Next, it'll take me to the default roles. So I can just select a specific role for that person. And again, as I change what I've got selected, you can see that it changes what's available here. I also have the option of creating a new role, giving it a name, and then, making modifications. As appropriate. And then once I've done that, or use the standard, I just hit Set Permissions. They should receive the email to finish setting up their profile, change their password, and then they can start using the tool. Okay, so there's a question, do you have a crosswalk for the assessments we had and connects it to your new assessment? So the short answer again is that all of the IBM Assess, Prove It content you had on your prior account will be the exact same content you have on your new account for SHL. So it should be the same titles as what you had previously. Great question. SHL does have their own Aspiring Minds content. Right now, they're keeping the two catalogs separate. But if you had an interest in the Aspiring Minds assessments, we can have that discussion with you, but it would require, at the moment, 2 different logins. For most of you, you're pretty much just transitioning with your existing tests to the new platform. So it's primarily a platform change, not a test content change. Great. So that pretty much summarizes using the tool. I'm going to do, So they do not currently have, the question is can I show what that would be for the catalog on the new platform? They don't currently have that uploaded as a catalog yet. However, if I go to, create my assessment, I can easily, again, do a keyword search for whatever test I'm looking for. And it's going to pull up that particular test. So, whatever it is I'm looking for, we've pretty much got it, the tests are here for it. JavaScript, it's going to pull up JavaScript. Or again, I can look for a job profile. Oh, is there a wildcard search? So I can always do a partial search. And again, based off of that, it's going to give me whatever has that included. Just as long as there's pretty much no obvious typos, you should have it pop up in your options. And then you can scroll for the appropriate test. We are hoping to have the catalog actually available so we can share that with you shortly. Again, they're just in the final stages of doing the rebranding for that. So, great. I'm going to take just another moment to see if there's any new questions that anybody might have. Great. Well, that pretty much concludes this training for the platform. Please feel free to reach out to myself, Amy, Michelle, Carrie, if you have any questions about the tool. We are starting to do an overview for one of the products that they just released, which was the 3 video conferencing, remote videoing tools. That will be next Wednesday. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We can get you signed up so you can take a look at those and have a quick overview of the tool. So if there's no other questions, we appreciate your time and hope you found this. So there's a question, will we be sending this out to those on the call? I have recorded this. If you'd like a copy of the actual training, just send me your name and email, and I'll get you that as soon as it finishes uploading to the system. So you've got that for your reference. Great questions. Appreciate all of that feedback today, guys. Anything else that last minute questions before we go? Oh. Okay, so we do have another question. Under the report section portion, there's a tab called Insights. Ooh, that's a great question. So the short answer is it's the question of whether or not the insights and the objectives would be available before the test. Right now, the short answer is no, but I'm actually going to make that as a point so that we can share that with the SHL as a suggestion for an enhancement. So thank you for that. Again, appreciate the feedback and the questions and the comments. We do hope you found this of benefit. Please let us know if you have any other questions that come up as you continue using the tool. We are also scheduling some calls with SHL to discuss future enhancements. So if you have suggestions or commentary on that, we'd love to share that with the SHL team to make this a better experience for you. And with that, I think we've answered all of the questions. And you may now disconnect. Thank you again for your time.